Again, welcome everybody to our week 9 Celtic lecture session in our winter. We're in the winter quarter, winter 2023 quarter. I am very lucky and I feel very honored to introduce our guest speakers today. We've got Michael Twiggs and we've got Reese Clark, who are co-business owners of Garden of Eden Indoor Farming. And so today they'll talk us through their work and the impact that they're having in their local community and beyond. Before I hand it off to them, I just want to give you an overview of Michael's bio and Reese's bio. You can see here in the chat, we've got a link to both of the bios. So I'll go ahead and start with Michael. So Michael Twiggs is founder and CEO of Garden of Eden Indoor Farming, an indoor farming company specializing in education, training, and consulting services since 2014. He's an environmentalist experienced in controlled environment agriculture with an in-depth knowledge in the use of hydroponic, aeroponic, soilless growing systems and related technologies, including LED, aeroponic towers, NFT channels, rotary gardens, keto bucket, and deep water culture systems. His passion for growing microgreens, fresh fruit, and leafy green vegetables indoors all year round from seed to table. He's also an IT professional with both technical and management experience in banking, manufacturing, telecommunications, and education industries. He uses his knowledge of systems design and integration to develop new, sustainable business models for indoor food production. Our other guest speaker is, like I said, Reese Clark. Thank you so much again as well for joining us. He's the managing director and program analyst for Evergreen Indoor Vertical Farming. He joined his longtime friend Michael Twiggs in 2013 to help establish Garden of Eden Indoor Farming and later Evergarden Farms. Currently oversees Evergarden's web-based services and consults with their partners about cooperative online services and hydroponic project development, curriculum, and finance. All right, thank you both so much. Take it away.
Hello again.
There we go.
Very glad to be here. We're basically putting together a presentation that hopefully will be entertaining and enjoyable to those of you that are in attendance. I'm a greener, graduate of 2014, Evergreen Tacoma, as a matter of fact. A little background. When I retired, I decided to go back to college at the unction of Dr. Maxine Mims. And upon doing so, wanted to go in, sit back, relax, and coast. But my second nature is that of a problem solver. You know, I'm an analyst by training and a designer of solutions that couldn't just sit back. I took an environmental class where I learned of the Asarco copper smelter that existed in Tacoma for about 100 years, billowing smoke and contamination for about 1,000 square miles. And I remember once I understood that the residue of copper smeltering was arsenic, I rushed into the director's office there and announced that they're just straight up killing us with the contamination that they're spewing around. He didn't even raise his head. He said, well, what you gonna do about it? And that's where my quest to find a solution actually began. Research, led me to Dupommier, who is the father of vertical farming. And out of that came a way to begin to address the problem by growing indoors all year round. I soon learned that the size of what I would need to grow was prohibitive. It would take acres and acres and acres of land to grow enough fruits and vegetables that number one, I couldn't afford, and number two, in Seattle, there was no land that was even addressable in terms of cost. So I began looking at vertical farming and what that might bring to the task. And I began doing the things that were necessary to learn about what it was and how I might be able to use that technology to respond to the kind of problems we were having. The development of Garden of Eden was my spring project. And as a greener, you know, the spring projects are the things where great answers to great problems often arise. And in my case, it was no different. But in putting together the actual farm, we were able to put a dent in the problem. One of the things I did for fun was design curriculum. So the curriculum for hydroponics resulted as a result of that experience. And it grew and grew and grew from that into what has become Garden of Eden indoor farming. Reese and I go back about 30 years. He's a lot older than I am, as you can tell. But we work well together. We both have a background in information technology. And by its very nature, those are problem solvers. And it gave me an opportunity to use some of the skills and abilities developed there to address the indoor farming problem and hydroponics specifically. We've got a slideshow that I'll use as a way of stepping through this in some meaningful way to present what I call a new economic engine for urban communities. Land is not that prevalent, but it is one way of framing the kinds of issues that are very much a part of finding solutions to our need for fresh fruits and vegetables all year round. A comment I remember from Dr. Tyrus Smith, one of the classes I took from he and Dr. Lee, was that by the time you sit down for dinner, what is on your plate has traveled about 1,600 miles to get to your plate. That stuck. It stuck with me because it made me fully aware of how our food travels and the stages of storage and warehousing that it goes through before we even sit down to eat it. And the result of that is a loss of nutrition. By the time it gets to your plate, it may have inklings of nutrition associated with it. But in general, it's not as fresh as it could be. I like the term uh, local, fresh, local. The carbon footprint is minimized, and at the same time, the overall benefit to be derived from fresh fruits and vegetables are available to you. And I like the thought of that. All I knew was that food tasted different than it did when I was a kid in my grandmother's garden. I didn't spend a lot of time there because I had an aversion to dirt. And that was another thing that attracted me to hydroponics. You mean I don't have to get dirty? I don't have to rumble in the dirt. And I could use water or non soil products to do what needed to be done. Um, when I say a new economic engine, I mean you don't have to leave the city to grow vegetables and to do so profitably. Uh, and we'll get into that a little bit later. The areas of the what's known as the food desert. Uh, Food deserts are locations in the city where you don't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables within a mile. If it's over a mile to get to fresh fruits and vegetables, it's considered a food desert. Uh, the hilltop in Tacoma is a food desert. You have to go quite a ways to get anything that resembles fresh fruit and vegetables. Now, you've got fast food there, you've got uh, coffee there, pastries, there are fast food uh, stores, but don't go looking for an apple, a banana, or a head of lettuce, or you will be very disappointed that you won't find it. The lack of food outlets and uh, high food and sugar diets are commonplace, and they contribute to some of the chronic illnesses in that community. What comes to mind is hypertension or high blood pressure and diabetes and heart disease and all of the things that take away from health and nutrition. Uh, General unemployment is a big issue. You know, there's not a lot of ways to make a living that uh, people that live in the inner city can avail themselves of. So it's a double-edged sword. The economy suffers, the health suffers from nutritional deficiencies, and it's not a very good environment for the inhabitants of those in that particular area of the city. I tend to focus on solutions instead of problems. You know, the ability to identify problems is pretty rampant, but solutions are pretty scarce. People have either given up on trying to find solutions, or they are not really aware that there are things that exist that are within their reach. Uh, the idea that you can grow food all year round seems to be an elusive one. I found 13 outdoor gardens in the hilltop area. But if you go around those gardens after October, they are empty and people are not really into dealing with that outdoor farming, that time of year. When we first started, I saw that we were considered competitors, uh, people that grew in the dirt and had the small farms. The pea patches and victory gardens, although they're worthwhile, uh, they can't operate once the weather turns cold. It occurred to me one day that we were not competitors. They get to grow 16 weeks out of the year, and I grow 52. That's not competition. What we need to do is to align ourselves so that when they're unable to grow outdoors, they can avail themselves of the tools and the technologies and the foods that we grow all year round. I'm not going to be growing everything that they're growing. No squash, no watermelons, none of that stuff is on my list of things to do, but it's on theirs. But leafy greens, lettuces, arugula, kale, things like that that are commonly known as superfoods. That's what we specialize in actually dealing with. And we can grow it 24/7, 365 without any of the issues that are often challenges for people that are growing outside as well. The business or the industry, I might say, has evolved. It's evolved and it's something that you might want to consider. I've got a short video clip here that I want to share that basically
you love
presents the model
you can build one and click
in a way that
in this list.
encapsulates exactly what the hydroponic farm is like. How are we doing, Reese? Skip the ad and let's go straight to it. This will give you an idea of what I'm speaking of. Now that's the way the indoor farm actually works. You grow on site, you grow what you need to grow, You are then able to deliver direct to chefs, restaurants, and food banks, you name it. It gives you the opportunity to interact in a way that makes good sense and makes for a very lucrative business once you understand what we're dealing with. That little lady sitting there with the pink scarf on, I'm sure many of you know. She's been a mentor of mine for many years and a big fan of how we've evolved and grown in terms of healthy, nutritious plants and food production. It's not as expensive as one might think.
So, Brendan, you're not fat. It's the shirt.
It gives you an opportunity to
This growing
not
video
only
is by Urban Cultivator, makers of the most
grow,
advanced indoor growing
but to
appliance
grow
for
economically
residential use.
and in a
Be
way
a part of
that
the Zero Mile diet.
we all benefit from. The urban cultivator is one of the things that we use. This will give you an example of exactly what's involved in the production of what's known as microgreens. Microgreens are
have 1 tablespoon of seeds. So as per usual, you want to get a nice good spread.
I'll let him speak for himself.
That out. This is a really good time to get your kids involved as well. This is a nice fun part for them, especially if they're going to train to be in a maraca band. We're going to have a lot of broccoli. Perfect.
Michael, tell me when how long you want to watch these.
Spread it out nicely over top. Give them
Till he pulls it out. Okay, I'll let.
just enough to give them a good little covering.
This will give them an idea of exactly what's involved in microgreen production.
Now pat them down nice and gentle. All right. Now
It's not rocket science.
And make sure the vents are closed on the top. That's really important. You don't want any of that moisture or heat getting out.
Right.
So I like to keep this on for about 2 to 3 days or until you start seeing some sprouts grow. Let's put it in the urban cultivator. If you haven't already, check out our growing overview video for detailed information on soil preparation, watering, lighting, and more.
Let's go into the watering menu and set your watering schedule for once every 4 days.
Mike, do you want to let this run, or what do you want to do?
We're good.
I mean,
I would.
This will go on forever because it's chained together.
No, we don't want forever. Let's move on.
Okay.
I'll basically talk about what's going on there.
Okay, go ahead.
The urban cultivator is a piece of equipment that we use to actually grow seedlings as well as microgreens. Microgreens are the first leaf in a plant's growth. All plants start out that way. I won't say all. Most of the popular plants that we deal with start out that way. Your broccolis, your radishes, your arugula, your cabbage, your kale, all have their beginnings in that fashion. Out of that comes a plant that has anywhere from 20 to 30 times the vitamin and nutrient content as a full-grown plant. What you would get from a stalk of broccoli, you can get the vitamins and nutrients from microgreens at the same time. We evolved from growing the full-grown plants, primarily because of time. If I plant a seed and say it's broccoli, from the time I plant that seed to the time that broccoli is ready to harvest is anywhere between 45 and 60 days. That's a long, long time to try and keep a student's attention. We were teaching students at uh, Garfield High School in Seattle and Franklin High School and Nova High School. And trying to keep a student's attention for 45 days was next to impossible. They'd start out real well with you, but after about 7 to 10 days, it would wane. And suddenly you'd be talking to yourself while they either slept or were on their phones doing something else. The real deal was that we needed something to engage and maintain the attention of youth. As I began to learn the benefits of microgreens, it's a great crop, high nutritional content, easy to grow, and its life cycle is approximately 7 to 10 days. Now, I can keep their attention for 7 to 10 days, but I can't do it for 45. And the benefits far outweighed anything else that we could do over time. On the left in this image, you see the first location of Garden of Eden indoor farming. We called it the Central Area Urban Gardeners. It's a house on 21st and Yesler. The house was donated with an upstairs and downstairs, and we grew fresh fruits and vegetables all year round in there. We grew a couple of tons of vegetables during our 2 years there and distributed it to the local neighborhood as well as the food banks in the area as well. It was a good project. We learned a lot. We also were able to train about 20 to 25 kids in that process. And out of that came interest that began to fuel what we would do moving forward. The overall model that we use is based on the traditional family farm. Something small, not a big warehouse. And out of that came some benefits that we had no full understanding of at the time. But we learned pretty quickly that we could use that model to grow microgreens. If you're an entrepreneur and you're interested in growing fresh fruits and vegetables, I would highly, highly recommend that you take a serious look at microgreens. They're beginning to pop up in stores throughout the Puget Sound region. Usually your high-end stores and your high-end restaurants feature microgreens in one form or another, whether it is the garnish on the plate or it is as a product in the supermarkets. They are around, they're kind of pricey, but the benefits far outweigh the costs that you're dealing with. And it is a driver of the new economic engine we talk about. It gives high revenue and return on investment, and it's something that a small investment, a relatively small investment of less than $10,000 will actually generate revenue in general. For people that have a two-car garage or a spare bedroom, the microgreen business can actually generate anywhere from 6 to 10,000 a month,
Synchronized.
and even greater, depending on which crop choices you use and which size operations that you tend to go with. We're going to show you a couple of growing operations that deal with the use of microgreens as a product line. The dollars and cents associated with it that entrepreneurs can avail themselves of is quite surprising. Here's an example. A recommended $10,000 investment will generate revenue of about $8,600 a month. And after expenses, net almost $4,000 a month. Now, I don't know many $10,000 investments that you can have that will generate almost $4,000 a month all year round. It gives us an opportunity to look more carefully at the economics of what we're talking about here. It doesn't take forever. It doesn't take a lot of money. There is major benefit from it. And if you're an entrepreneur at heart, this is something you might want to consider. If you got a little bit more money, say less than 20,000, the revenue on this monthly is $22,000 a month with a net income of just under 10 grand a month. This is the microgreen business. When I say a new economic engine, I mean just that. The business can do nothing but grow. Nothing but grow and benefit. When I made the connection between chronic illnesses in my community and the lack of nutrition, it provided an entree into the microgreens world. The idea that you can affect things like diabetes and high blood pressure and heart disease and other illnesses that are taking away our loved ones way too soon through a nutritional response got my undivided attention. Many in my family suffer from high blood pressure or diabetes or heart disease. We've lost many people to that. So for me, microgreens became a way of helping to supplement the nutritional intake of people that responded to many of the chronic illnesses. More and more people are beginning to discover that we're not at the mercy of all of the things that are going on in our communities. It provides us with an opportunity to do something and to do something meaningful about the kinds of responses that we have. We have a basic 10-week mastery learning program that we teach both at Seattle Central College as well as Evergreen in Tacoma. We're just setting up the growing environment at Evergreen in Tacoma to be able to offer training in hydroponics and indoor gardening and indoor farming in that arena. The idea is to be able to create a destination point so that people that have need or desire to learn more about the indoor growing capabilities and the variety of crops that are available through that, as well as the overall impact that they can have on the nutrition and health in their communities. That's what that course is about. We've had people fly in from Arkansas. I've set up training and technology in Minnesota, offered consulting in Georgia and in Kansas City and in California. Things are beginning to happen as people understand that we're not at the mercy of everything. There's some things that we can do and do meaningfully that are very much worthwhile. Now I'm gonna shut up and I'd be happy to entertain any questions that come my way and do my best to respond.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Before I open the floor for questions, just a moment to thank Michael and Reese for walking us through this incredibly powerful, relevant work that they are clearly so passionate about. So if you could give thanks, claps, cheers, celebrations, anything we can on Zoom. Michael, you mentioned when you first started in that blue house, blue or purple, I can't remember what color it was,
Blue.
that you learned that you learned a lot. And I wonder if you could walk us through some of the lessons you learned in that sort of first phase.
Sure. We had to create an environment that would support an indoor ecosystem that has to do with ventilation. It has to do with airflow. It had to do with lighting. It had to do with use of the equipment that we're talking about. The image that you see on the screen there was a portion of the garden, the indoor garden. The opportunity to balance temperature, to balance carbon dioxide, to balance the humidity in that environment. It's the STEAM, what we call STEAM curriculum, the science of it, the technology involved, the engineering involved, and the math. And we stick an A in between the engineering and math, and that A is for agriculture. Okay, STEAM is a curriculum, and by the way, it's interdisciplinary by design, which is much of what I learned at Evergreen. All of those things have to be in balance. You know, you learn to appreciate balance. You know, the science of it gets into the nutrients that you feed the plants. It gets into the pH that the water that you use has or is to support growth. Give you an idea. I love strawberries, but in growing strawberries, you pretty much have to grow them by themselves because of what's required in terms of the nutrient density. What strawberries love in terms of a 1,200 parts per million would kill all my lettuce. I know I tried to grow them together. But what the lettuce needs would not support the growth of the strawberries. So you learn what things can be grown in the same nutrient and pH pool, and how to separate and isolate them in different types of equipment. There are different types of equipment that you can use for growing different things. One of the things that's different about our approach is that we use a variety of technologies. What's known as NFT channels is great for growing lettuce. What's known as keto buckets is great for growing collard greens. What's known as a rotary garden is great for actually creating your seedlings. It's also the kind of thing that this on the screen, those are NFT channels. The roots extend down into the flow of water in those long channels. And as the water flows from one end of the channel to the other, it bathes the roots in nutrient and oxygen-rich water. So they don't have to struggle for anything. Everything they need is delivered directly to them, and they grow very well. The same principle, a pump pumps the water to the top of this device, and as the water trickles back down and is reclaimed, it waters the roots of the plants that are stuck in the side. This is what's called an urban cultivator. This is where we do our magic. You want to move that off of there? This is the magic. The urban cultivator grows microgreens, 16 trays of microgreens at a time. We set the temperature of the water. We set the temperature of the unit. We set the pH of the water. We set the timers to come on, water a certain number of times a day for a certain period of time. It's all computerized. And then we go home, okay? And it will fire up, it will give it, maybe it's 12 hours of light and 12 hours of darkness. It will feed it 1 to 4 times a day. It will maintain the temperature that it needs. Now that's the large growing environment. That's where we were headed until we realized we had lost our way. Anything like that, that's a multi-million-dollar operation, far outside the reach of anything that you can do with limited variety of plants that you can grow. That doesn't solve the problem of variety. All it does is produce the same kinds of things over and over and over again. You can't tailor it to your culture. You can't tailor it in a way that people tend to consume. I don't want the same meal every day. I like lettuce, but I like a variety of lettuce.
Michael,
Romaine is good. Butter lettuce is good. I don't want one or the other. I want a little of this and I want a little of that. And I like spinach. Give me arugula. Give me a variety of things that is available in a small farm, but not necessarily in an environment like this. So what you end up with is the big corporate farm and very little variety in the diet that we're actually involved with in that regard. I bring in the model of, for lack of another term, clusters. A cluster of small farmers basically gives you a way of using technology to leverage this new economic engine. If I've got a dozen small farmers that are working out of say a 2-car garage, each of them can specialize in a small number of things, small number of crops. And we use technology to tie them together so that we know who is growing what, when it's going to be harvested. It gives us an opportunity to aggregate a variety of products and at the same time provide revenue to each individual marketplace. When I say the NFL model, I mean that everyone in that cluster receives what they need to start growing. As the product is harvested, they're compensated again. And at the end of a period, everybody that's participated in it gets a share of the overall profit. So they get paid 3 times. You get paid at the start, you get paid at the middle, and you get paid at the end. And guess what? You begin to develop a marketplace that's win-win-win, and at the same time results in what we are calling the economic engine for urban communities. Did that answer your question?
It did, yes. And I so appreciate you bringing in especially that last point and, this idea of sort of local ownership and cooperatives, because that's a thread that's been woven throughout this lecture series. We've had folks from a variety of different industries and areas come to talk about the cooperative sector, and it's so a passion of mine. So I just so appreciate you bringing
Not
that
a problem.
into understanding and thinking about this new economic engine.
Good.
So my last question, my final question, because I know that we only scheduled for until 2, is in trying to build and develop the Garden of Eden and this business, what are/were some of the primary resources for you both as entrepreneurs that you found were really useful in the business development side of all of this, whether it's certain incubation programs or certain networks that you plugged into, or financial institutions or programs, any, specific resources that you found particularly useful?
Grants. The initial grant that was received came through SNA at Evergreen, Tacoma. That's how we bought our first piece of equipment, as a matter of fact. I wrote a grant to actually accomplish that. I think it was about $5,000, something like that. But it was enough to buy the equipment and launch our first foray into that marketplace. Upon graduation and starting the business, wrote another grant to the city of Seattle for their Department of Neighborhoods. They have large grants that go up to about 100,000. We didn't go that high, but they were very generous in terms of supplying us with what we needed in order to actually launch and buy a variety of equipment. We also went to the marketplace. There are people that were interested enough in hydroponics to invest in what we were dealing with. We're currently involved in a number of ways that I think are worth noting. We've got active projects now with the Port of Seattle, the Tacoma Urban League, the William Gross Center, which is connected with the Africatown land grant program. The Evergreen State College is another. But ACLT, the Africatown, Community Land Trust is what it's actually called. And the Boys and Girls Clubs. They're organizations that they've got interest but no plans, okay? And when we come to the table, we come with plans, we come with business plans, we come with technology, curriculum, and training. And out of that, we provide a way for people to grow and learn. And at the same time, speak to the entrepreneurial piece. Everybody talks about entrepreneurs, but they don't have an entrepreneurial program in my experience. We come with the full boat. We've got an entrepreneurial program, we've got the training, we've got the education, we've got the technology and the experience to facilitate what goes on in that regard. We work across many cultures. The Asia Pacific Cultural Center there in Tacoma, we've worked with them and we've trained people there in what we do. We've worked with Washington WorkSource to train youth and young adults in that regard. So, when you're developing curricula, you can speak to the specific needs and target particular cultural as well as economic elements within a community that can be funded and at the same time are able to really, really benefit churches or another arena. They're nonprofit organizations, make lots and lots of money, but don't necessarily know how to parlay that money into benefits for their membership or the communities that they serve. Food banks. Um, Food banks are another source of uh, funding, especially if you're able to target and align yourselves in response to the markets and communities that they service. It's there's no shortage of money. There is a shortage of creative ideas.
Awesome. Well, what a quote to end up on to close us out. Again, thank you so much. Again, I just want to extend my appreciation. Another thread that has been woven through the last couple of weeks is cultural entrepreneurship. And so it's really cool to see how, how agriculture and business sort of weaves through partnerships into cultural entrepreneurship. And so wonderful to see, a movement in agricultural production and new agricultural production in urban settings, but also, weaving in education, weaving in partnerships, weaving in community. So Michael and Reese, I just want to again say thank you so much for joining us today. I wonder before we go if anyone has any questions or wants to learn more, if you wouldn't mind sticking your email into the chat if you're willing to entertain questions or follow-ups.
Anyone who wants to go to GOE as in Garden of Eden farming.org will find a very convenient form at the bottom of every page. And they can get in touch with us that way, and that actually reaches us more efficiently than telephone calls, which we might not be able to take.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. Well, again, thank you both so much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing your continued collaboration with Evergreen State College and all of the community organizations that are recognizing the value and the power of your work.